Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and Sony needs to kinda humble themselves a little bit. So, to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, the catalyst for today's video is Sony suing a mod developer. Now, this is Lance McDonald, and if you've ever watched his content on YouTube, you know, I've shouted it out a few times. He's a cool dude. He's definitely made some interesting mods for PlayStation 4 games, particularly Bloodborne, and from what I recall, obviously anything in the Konami side of things on the PlayStation 4. But Lance recently got a copyright strike. I created and released a patch on February 21st, 2021, which makes Bloodborne run the game at 60 frames per second. Now, to give you an idea, jailbroken PlayStations are a thing. So if you have a hacked PS4, and I've shown this in my videos, you can play, obviously, backed up games. You can run emulators. You can even install Linux on a PlayStation 4, and then using Proton and a lot of the libraries built for Linux gaming on PC, you can run games like Halo Master Chief Collection on the actual PlayStation if it's jailbroken. I've made videos on it. I've shown this. So it doesn't matter if Microsoft wants to officially release Master Chief Collection. If you really want to play Halo on a PlayStation, some cursed ass shit that bad, it is entirely possible. But anyways, he made a patch which could be run on a modified PlayStation 4, and you could run games like Bloodborne at up to 60 frames per second. You could install mods for games like Red Dead Redemption 2, and multiple other titles. But here, he received a DMCA takedown notice on behalf of Sony Interactive Entertainment that he removed links to the patch posted on the internet. So, you might be wondering, why is this a big deal? Well, at the end of the day, anytime a company jumps in to get somebody to remove a mod, especially when that mod doesn't appear, in my opinion, to actually be violating the copyright, of Bloodborne, it's probably just a simple script. Nothing really is being shared from a DMCA perspective. No game assets are being shared. That's a scary sign, okay? And obviously Nintendo has jumped in and taken out entire fan games in the past, but that's because those fan games do contain Nintendo IPs and assets. Now, the very optimistic, copium-huffing motherfucker might think, whoa, maybe Sony is making Bloodborne for PC, and they're just shutting down all of these mods that people are using to experience Bloodborne on the PC at, 60 frames per second with multiple mods. See, up until very recently, Sony really didn't give a shit about this mod, and it was shared, obviously, by my channel, by Lance, by channels like Digital Foundry. It was supposed to be really cool shit. People were excited to talk about this. But yeah, Sony ends up shutting this down. Now, coincidentally, they also do this at the same day they release Marvel's Spider-Man 2 on PC, a dog shit PC port so bad, so terrible, apparently, from what I've been reading, that it may actually be somewhat somehow the people that have pirated the, I think it was now a year or a 2-year-old build of Spider-Man 2 that they reverse engineered, like a bunch of Brazilians actually ported Spider-Man 2 using the Insomniac source code leak. That version may actually run better than the official port of the PC. Now, obviously, I don't condone that, but Sony clearly didn't put any effort into it. In fact, from what I recall, this wasn't even actually advertised. They kind of just stealth dropped this. And immediately when you're reading into this, you'll see people who are saying, for those of you who buy this game, before you play, open the install folder of a game, make a new folder and drag dstorage DLL. You might recognize that from my Final Fantasy VII video like 2 days ago, where I literally had to show people to replace DLLs for things like direct storage so the game fucking works well. This guy gave it a fucking thumbs up review, which, by the way, is so fucking dumb, because if I have to rip open the game and play Operation, all right, if I have to do open heart surgery on the game directory, then it's not a good port. You shouldn't be recommending it, okay? And it's kind of a shame, because Insomniac are the guys that have genuinely made good ports in the past. Like, what happened here? These guys made Spider-Man on the PC, and it was great. Ratchet and Clank seemed to run great. What happened here? Stop releasing games that aren't finished. Nixie's dropped the ball hard with this port. Performance is all over the place. Ray tracing is broken. Cutscenes frame rate jump all over the place. And you know what? Some people would be like, it's probably not real. Look, for $79.99 Canadian. Okay, this game better come out and suck my fucking dick. All right, simple as that. All right, that's a full price game. They're not even discounting it. You know, because it's like a year old. This is a full price release. So if it runs like dog cheeks, okay, then don't buy it. Don't support it. All right, now Sony, instead of, you know, releasing a game that I think PC gamers probably care about, something like Bloodborne, they are intentionally trying to make the experience much more difficult. Now, about a couple like weeks, if not months ago, I was doing like, you know, constant Bloodborne emulation updates. So today I do want to do a little bit of an emulation update because, ladies and gentlemen, it is going to blow you away. So to give you an idea, if you go to Shat PS4's website, I used to be downloading like random builds on the internet optimized for Bloodborne. But if you go to Shat PS4's website and just go to the download section, you can basically download the most up-to-date version of this build right now. In fact, you can go to their GitHub, and I downloaded the Linux version of it, which was literally updated yesterday. And of course, these are constantly updated because, again, these are, you know, major releases. There's obviously nightly versions of it, but I downloaded this version. And in my initial video where I was showcasing Bloodborne running on my actual system, I had to go through hoops where I had to rip out libraries from my hacked PlayStation, install a whole bunch of different patches. But I can assure you now it's as simple as downloading the actual emulator, going to the emulator, firing it up like so, and then, ladies and gentlemen, clicking on your copy of Bloodborne, connecting a DualSense controller, and just playing the game. In fact, to show you how simple it is, I'm just going to fire it up like so. It fires up the game, little black screen, little gray action over here. But using some patches, I've skipped to the actual main screen. I'm going to go offline, hit load my character. And again, I've played through the entirety of this game, you know, about a month and a half ago on PC. But just to show you how simple it is, I got this set up in literally 5 minutes. Now, remember when we initially played Bloodborne on the PC and it looked like just red screens? You couldn't even get past the introduction menu. Well, all of the effects seem to be working, meaning the smoke, all of the actual cloth physics. In fact, my character was bloodied. It used to be that you couldn't even see simple things like this lantern. You couldn't see items on the ground. And sometimes, if you wanted to actually play this game, you would have to deal with constant crashes and memory leaks as you were loading new areas. But now the game is absolutely playable. Perfectly fine on a PC. In fact, I've seen people have been running this on a Steam Deck, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. But yes, this is me running the game with a 60 frames per second patch and constant frame pacing fixes. So this is now officially a better experience than, I'm not even joking, the actual PlayStation 4 version of the game, the PS4 Pro version of the game. In fact, those versions of the game running on a PS5. Because Bloodborne, even if it's on a PS5, is not updated to support 60 frames per second, even though the system very much is capable of doing so. The only way to get the best experience on this game is literally playing it on actual PC. And I'm sorry for my gameplay right now. I'm actually trying to commentate and talk to you guys in the camera as we do this. But if you look at the game here real carefully, it used to be that sun wasn't rendering properly. There are issues, obviously, like if you look over here, the skybox isn't rendering perfectly. But that item, I used to use a mod to fix that. It actually is working just fine. There's no crazy like readjustments or anything. This does work. Now, obviously, is it perfectly locked to 60 frames per second? Obviously not. It just isn't. There are going to be some hitches, there are going to be some stutters, but generally speaking, it's a pretty good experience. I mean, the characters seem to be working fine. If you look carefully at my character, you'll see that I am soaked in actual blood, even as I've died over here. And of course, to die and show you just how the loading works, it takes me to the screen over here, and again, it's not the fastest loading that I've seen, but it's also not loading that is reminiscent of running this game on a PS4. But yeah, obviously the emulations do have their quirks. But I'm back in the action over here, and I'm having a good time. Now, in all of this, you might be wondering, Muda, did you need to get a BIOS file or anything? Nope, I literally just downloaded Shat PS4, and I probably put maybe 1 or 2 mods just to fix some stability, if I needed to even do that, and the game just works. So, unlike other PlayStation emulators like PCSX2 or PlayStation 3, where yeah, you could argue that you would need to download some proprietary Sony code, this one does not use anything. And of course, I haven't vetted the actual, source code for this emulator, so I really hope there's nothing, again, infringing. But I imagine if there was, Sony would probably have this shut down as well too. And obviously, I've covered Sony's, past with emulators. They've definitely tried taking this stuff to court, and they've definitely held a fat L, which allows us, to this day and age, actually emulate games on our computer. So yeah, Bloodborne is completely playable. Now again, if Sony decided to release this port on the fucking PC, I personally wouldn't be interested in it. It's one of the reasons why I didn't buy Red Dead Redemption on PC for like $60. Obviously, I'm not going to buy a version of the game when I could clearly emulate it on PCSX3, RPCSX3, and of course on, the Switch emulator. And at least in the PlayStation 3 emulator front, you can actually play multiplayer with your friends, something you were not able to do on the actual PS3 version of the game. Or not PS3, the PC official release. But yeah, the lighting seems to work, and sure, there might be some things that aren't completely functioning in this, but generally speaking, if you're somebody who wants to play Bloodborne right now, there is no better time to do it than the actual release right over here. All the items are accessible, you can play the game from start to finish, you can enjoy the DLC, and even things like Chalice Dungeons can be modified into your save file without the use of the internet or PlayStation Network. Now, pro tip, if you want to make this game smoother, you could probably download things like lossless scaling and actually add in frame generation if you really wanted to add that into the game. But yeah, this is enough of Bloodborne right here. Yes, it works, and not only is it easier to get it up and running, it's something that obviously Sony clearly dislikes. Now, to show you how much of a support that Bloodborne has gotten, even though Sony has taken down Lance McDonald's 60 frames per second patch, very clearly you can still download a updated version of it on the actual Nexus mods. In fact, it's probably the only thing I've ever seen where a emulated game has this many modifications put into it. In fact, if you go to the most popular mods here, people are adding in things like visual effects fixes. I, for instance, have downloaded this mod and the Vertex Explosion Fix mod that have actually been inside my system. But a user known as From Software has been making things like visual tweaks that allow you to get more frames. If you're somebody that games on an Xbox controller or a Switch controller, you've got modifications for that. Do you guys use reshade? They've got tons of reshades for this. Again, it's like the only fucking modified game where they have 10-something pages of mods put into the actual game that you can play around with. Weapons, modifications to armors. I mean, it is, again, it's crazy because this, ladies and gentlemen, is an emulated PlayStation 4 game that people clearly gave a shit about. Sony didn't, and gamers on the PC decided, we're just going to preserve this for ourselves. And again, it's one of the things that I love about PC gaming, probably the most, is the preservation aspect. Look, I'm somebody that's talked about game preservation for years, and it's clearly an important thing to me. I'm not like a gamer that is, touring in this industry. When I play a good game, I think about, hey, 10 years down the road, I want people to play a good game too. So Shad PS4, even if Sony doesn't care about porting their game to the PC, thankfully, regardless of all the DMCAs being offered, these things have been preserved and we've finally been able to keep it. So, ladies and gentlemen, fuck Sony. Fuck Sony for trying to stop any form of fun gaming. They don't care about Bloodborne. I don't understand why even issuing any DMCAs makes any sense. But yes, if you want to play Bloodborne, especially with the Lady Dimitrescu mod right here in the Astral Clock Tower, that's also available too. So if this interests you, well, there's only one platform you can play this on, and it ain't PlayStation. It's PC. So yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about it because shit like this does piss me off. But the silver lining here is no matter how many legal, cases you want to bring up, you cannot shut down the emulation community. It's just not possible anymore, especially when it comes to something like this. Files are out there already, constantly going to get shared around. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it, I am out.